Hello and welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. My name is Don Pelto, and I have the privilege of talking to Nicola today. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Now, I love talking to someone that has a beautiful accent because we all have Massachusetts accents, which isn't as nice as yours. So tell me a little bit, where do you come from? Tell me your background and some things like that before we get going.
So I'm from the UK. I'm originally from London, but I now live up in the mountains in the Highlands of Scotland. And my background is as an osteopath. I ran my own practice in London for the best part of 20 years. And I now work supporting practitioners to grow profitable practices. And I'm a bit of a Google nerd as well, for my sins.
And how was it? How was it? Because we have here probably is about most of us are podiatrists in the US, and most of us own our own offices, or the ones that would tend to listen to this are the people that aren't working for someone they're owning or an associate. What was it like transitioning from like being in private practice all the time to doing this? That must have taken courage and things like that. Were you just kind of learning on your own and then eventually you just kind of did the dive, or how was that?
So it was a conscious decision to sell my practice. So I sold my practice. I moved and had a fresh start and had every intention really of perhaps opening a practice at some point. I'd been doing business growth mentoring for a while, decided to qualify as a business coach, and I just loved it. I didn't miss practice as much as I thought perhaps I might. And then it just became clear that I was really enjoying this, and I felt like I did my 20 years, I paid my dues, and I didn't miss clinical work anymore. So yeah.
Yeah. So Nicola, tell me a little bit about, like, everyone wants new patients. I think if you ask any doctor, like, that's the golden goose is getting them in when they call and you want to get them. But we all want more. And since you're kind of a Google hacker, I guess, go through and kind of you can do some high level things of what would work, and maybe even giving some tips that people can take action on.
Yeah. So at the moment, the quickest win for most practitioners that just is so easy for them to action is their local Google My Business listing. And most people, it's got a layer of dust on it. They kind of set it up, they claimed it, they filled their information in, and it's been like, months since they signed in. So just going in and bringing your listing up to date, making sure that it's got really nice photos. Often people are quite shocked, the street view might be the bins or the parking lot or something, and it's actually not a very flattering first impression. So upload some really nice photos, go ahead, make sure your opening hours are up to date. They might well have changed. Have you gone and added new products and services? Perhaps you've invested in like shockwave therapy or Veruca Swift treatment and it's not on there. So you won't be found very easily when people are Googling for that service locally. So make sure all your products and services are up to date. How are your Google reviews? Have you replied to every nice review that's been left? Are you doing something to actively get a rhythmic amount of reviews coming in every week, every month? Is that a KPI, key performance indicator for you and your team? So there are so many very, very quick wins by just really updating your Google My Business listing. And that enables you to feature on Google Maps. So if somebody's looking for a foot pain clinic near them, generally the ads will be at the top, and then the next big piece of real estate is a Google map with 1, 2, and 3, which kind of, is a bit misleading because it kind of just looks like perhaps there's only 3, and the positioning might be 1 kind of implies the best psychologically, doesn't it? So you want to be in that 3-pack, and the fastest way to do that is to be really, really active with your Google My Business listing. Be posting on it, getting regular reviews, replying to those reviews, and Google will reward you.
Yeah, and it's I don't know if it's unfortunate. I feel like Google and Amazon are almost like controlling a lot of the real estate online and almost controlling to a bigger extent the patients coming to see us. So what you focus mostly on is then organic searching, not so much AdWords and things like that, just making it more attractive, just the basics for doctors, right?
Yeah, so we work with Google Ads a lot, and Google Ads is changing dramatically right now. But in terms of what some quick wins, Google My Business is the first place to start. So I wouldn't go investing in Google Ads until you've really optimized your Google My Business listing, because it would be a shame, because if you go for Google Ads, you're missing out on some of the free real estate that's available, and it would be a shame to throw money at a problem before you've done the basics first.
Do the basics. Now, what are some good tips? I have my own tips for getting reviews and encouraging patients to do that. What are some simple ones that you recommend?
So I think depends on the demographic in your practice. So if you've got, relatively kind of young patients that are going to have a smartphone, automating it through your practice management software and making sure that everybody is getting a prompt is the fastest, simple way to get that regular flow coming through. If you've perhaps got an older demographic of patient, then you might want to do something a little bit more manual, like having a little postcard that has some instructions on how to do it. And don't forget to ask people, when they've just got up off the table and they're in that kind of post-treatment, oh my goodness, that feels so much better already. I'm so glad I came. That's a nice opportunity to ask, and training your front desk can be the real kind of ninja tactic of,
I like that.
They come to the front desk and they are just so delighted. And the front desk person can say, do you know what? If you would go ahead and leave a review and mention Don's name, I know that would just make his day. And it kind of feels like they're doing the practitioner a favor. Not, it's not the business trying to push, could you leave us a review? It helps our exposure locally. Just turns the patient off. They're going to shut down. So there's lots of different ways, but I would, spread across all of those different routes and see what works in your area with your patients.
That's awesome. One thing that I found, Nicola, is I have a page on my blog where I do reviews, and it basically does the ask in there, and then it actually gives them a sample. I learned that from someone else. Hey, I saw Dr. So-and-so for this condition, and so they can just almost write it in, copy and paste it, and then into various ones. And I always do it. Usually, it's when they're the happiest, and so I don't do it the first visit because there's no relationship there. But like the second visit, I'll say, can I ask you a favor? And everyone wants to do the doctor a favor. I don't tend to use my staff. We use our staff in a different method. We have a QR code with we're bribing them. We give them a free gift, like we'll give them a water bottle or a shoehorn or something else. And then any tips on using those reviews then? Yes, replying. So I have a reminder once a month, I reply to all my reviews. Any good tips on using, like actually getting more bandwidth from those reviews in marketing or things like that?
Yeah. So first of all, on the homepage of your website, the one thing that I see that's missing from a lot of clinics' homepage is, if we think about the mentality of somebody that's searched for a foot clinic or a podiatrist, and they've come to your homepage and they're warming up, they're like, okay. The first thing they want to see is it convenient for me? Is it like on my school run to pick my kids or see my mother or whatever? So making sure that you have some Google Map code, first things first, that's on your homepage. Don't make people go navigate elsewhere to your contact page to look to see where you are, because that's just annoying. They've got to search for your location. Most people will say, oh, I've got my street address. And I'm like, yeah, but if they don't know where your road is or your street is. And if you pull in a Google map versus a Yelp map or a Bing map, your review count is going to show there. So if you're like, we're 5-star or something, that's a nice place to feature it. Otherwise, you can go ahead and screenshot if you get some lovely reviews. There are automated widgets you can get that pull in reviews onto the website. They're a great thing to share when you don't know what to post on social media that day. Go and screen grab some reviews, and even take it a step further and get yourself some video testimonials. Real human stories are so helpful as well over on your website.
I find those hard though. Like, besides me taking my cell phone and recording, do you know any easier way than just taking a cell phone and recording a patient? Are there some other websites or things that you recommend to get the video reviews for that make it easy?
I think doing it yourself literally, there are ways, but it's putting a hurdle, isn't it? Because
It
then
is. They're going to have to click the link, make sure their lighting is okay. Yeah.
yes, I would just say get one of those on desk
Tripod.
stands, pop it there, and they're talking to you, so it's there and it's
Oh,
them, but they're talking to you, and make it an interview. Yeah, and then they're slightly offset. It looks quite natural and organic,
do you
and
include both people's faces or just theirs?
no, you'd be behind the camera
Yes.
and just make it an interview, make it short, just a couple of simple questions, and then you're going to get lots and lots of 60 to kind of 90-second testimonials that will just pay dividends for years.
That's great. And for those that are listening, this, if you could take this one thing and do this once a week, it would dramatically improve your practice. Underneath this, I'll put a little link to the video consent we have in our office in case you guys want something similar. So I'm sure you have that similarly, but you need to get consent if you're doing this from patients or here in the States. So that's awesome. That's a great tip. So thank you. I know is there any other new things you mentioned that Google is doing, or is that pretty much about it for now? Any new things that practitioners should be aware of?
One of the hot things that I see a lot of people aren't taking advantage of is over in your Google My Business listing. You can turn direct messaging on now. So if people are doing a local regional search on their phone, there will be an option now where they can start a chat. Now, a lot of people, when I've mentioned this, kind of roll their eyes and go, oh, we've turned this off over on social media. We get a bunch of time wasters. It is just such a hassle. But you've got to remember that these are people that were searching for what you do in your local area. They weren't looking at funny cats on skateboards over on Instagram or Facebook. They were looking for what you do in your area. And it can be really interesting when someone's come across your local business listing and they choose to press chat and ask a question. Those questions can be gold because they've got your phone number, they've been to your website, and this question is often the last hurdle before perhaps pressing book online or calling you. So it can be really interesting to see what it is that people are wanting to know before booking in. But again, it's a soft, what I would call a soft call to action. It's a little baby step people can take to ask a question before going ahead and booking. So I would encourage you to turn it on, and remember, you're not going to do a free consultation over chat. Qualify them and steer them towards the next thing, which will be picking up the phone. Should we continue this over the phone and qualify them that way and get them booked in?
Now you're talking about the free thing. I'm going to pick your brain while I have you. A lot of people, not so much I see in podiatry, dentists do it a little bit different. They have like a new patient package for $150, including x-rays. Within podiatry, a lot, they say, oh, you should always do a free initial eval or consult. What are your thoughts on that in terms of direct response and getting people in versus lowering or downgrading the value of the service?
Absolutely. So I'm going to be completely honest. A free in-person is one of the things I wished I had done in my practice. When I was in practice, my opinion was my team's time is too valuable. And I think it cheapens the service. We're not doing a free in-person. Now that I've worked with so many clinics across the world, and as a marketer now, my job is to make practitioners think about your offer from the point of view of the patient. So if you have got somebody that's come across your website and the only thing they can do is to pick up the phone or to book online, you've got a serious problem. And you'll be shocked if you look at, how many people book in online versus how many website visitors you have. It's a tiny proportion. So we want to do everything we can to get digital visitors, whether they're going to Google My Business or to your website, and do everything we can to make them inquire. So whether that's a free chat on the phone or whether that's a free in-person, discovery visit, it can be, a short 15-minute or a full free consult, depending on how many new patients you want in. It's about just giving them the opportunity to speak to a professional and get their questions answered. So I have completely done a 180 on this since I was in practice, but we see work again and again, and it's just removing that barrier to stop them just visiting, not seeing anything that they can do to kind of ask and find out, is it suitable for me? Because those people that do pick up the phone have nearly always got questions. And once those questions are answered and they know they're in the right place, they book. So why not give them multiple ways and opportunities to do that? If you're not doing it right now, test it for 3 months. If it doesn't work for you in your practice, you tested it. But I promise you, you'd be surprised how many people take it up.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. I think a lot of the concern, not the concern, but the conversation in my head is, well, they're going to come in, I can take their insurance anyway. I can bill their insurance, and so it gluts my schedule a little bit and things like that. But I like your idea of maybe even a virtual one or a phone call or something like that, just to answer a simple question. So that's great. Thank you.
So a lot of the time, Don, you're probably doing that anyway. You'd be speaking to new people and asking clinical questions, answering their questions anyway.
Yeah.
Before they book in. So you're kind of just, you're doing it anyway. So why not just give it a label and put it as an offer? Because you're doing it anyway. And it doesn't have to be a practitioner. If you give your front desk a decent enough script, they can be like, yeah, do you want to do that free consult now? Let's go through it.
That's good. That's good. Great tip. I asked a few other tips because about improving business and life. And you talked about recruitment. You talk about a book, things like that. So tell me about those things.
So recruitment is something that is really challenging. I don't know if it's as tough in the US as it is over in the UK and Europe right now, but there's a serious labor shortage going on. And I think a lot of people are kind of just throwing their hands up and kind of just giving up on recruitment right now and pushing it, kicking it down the curb. But I would say that adapt what you're doing, acknowledge that there's a labor shortage going on right now, and what you did that was working 5 years ago might not work right now in terms of recruitment. You need to think outside the box. I'd get your butt over to LinkedIn. Some amazing things are happening over on LinkedIn from the point of view of recruitment. They are changing really, really quickly and adapting, and you can pop free job posts and listings on there. So do not give up on recruitment, because it is the path to kind of business freedom, to scaling and growing a practice, and having a practice that's perhaps profitable, whether you're in it full time or not, which is often a goal that a lot of people feel is just beyond their reach. So don't give up.
I think here there's always people graduating, but I think a lot of it is they come and work for a few years to get some experience, but then they'll move where they really want to live. So trying to find people that really want to live there. There's a lot of really good tips. I know you have I know Lorcan has some good stuff about hiring. A lot of other people have good things about hiring. Let's go back a little bit to, I think you have some courses and books and things like that about Google. And so let's talk a little bit about making improvements in practice, because you coach people along. Basically, you have do it yourself, do it with someone, or done for you. So kind of talk about like what makes people choose different ones, and is it a price thing only? Is it a time thing? I think everyone's just strapped for time more so than money. And so talk a little bit about that and what your experience is and what some of the things that you've been able to help people with.
So our masterclass, as we call it, we have a Google My Business Masterclass, which is completely free. And the reason we offer that as a kind of do-it-yourself version is Google My Business is really, once you've got somebody to guide you through and know what all the different bells and whistles do, it's very plug and play. And as we discussed earlier, there's loads and loads of quick wins that can be achieved, as opposed to the higher things that you can do with Google, such as Google Ads. I would say to anyone listening that if you're doing Google Ads on your own right now, it probably isn't the best use of your time. There are huge changes going on in Google Ads that if you're muddling through kind of doing it by yourself, your amount you're spending is likely to go up considerably. The amount of inquiries you're getting is likely to go down. And I would certainly get somebody like us, we specialize in healthcare Google Ads, to check it out for you, because it's changed beyond recognition even just in the past 6 months. It really is speeding through, and it's such a complex algorithm that Google Ads is kind of the line I draw in the sand where I say, well, you know, would you get you know, somebody who'd read a book on heel pain to assess your foot? You know, it really isn't something that is the best use of practitioners' time to try and figure out, because it changes so quickly.
Mhm.
So leaving it to a company like us, that our job is to keep abreast of what's happening in healthcare and Google. They have very specific ad criteria and advertising standard rules now for healthcare. And it's kind of our job to figure out what's working and get as many inquiries in for our clients, and get them their exposure on Google for those paid listings for as little spend as possible.
Yeah, and you guys then work, you must have to work then with the landing pages they use, that's sending to those pages to get them to convert.
Well, absolutely. A lot of times I don't send traffic to people's websites
Which
because
everyone else does, which everyone does. They send them to the homepage.
the reason being is I didn't build your homepage. So if I send traffic to your homepage, I can't take the credit or the blame for the ads that we run, because the ads are only the beginning. They get the person there. And often the homepage might be out of date. We might not be able to track inquiries through it. So what we do is we build a custom landing page and a funnel that we can measure how many people inquire, and everything is, as I say, watertight conversion tracking there. So that way, you know, we can track if it's working. We can tell you, right, you spent this amount of money, you got exactly this many inquiries. These were plantar fasciitis, these were ingrown toenail, these were and we can tell you therefore exactly what your return on investment was.
That's so, and I think we both use Kajabi, and so you use Kajabi. Do you do it all within? Now we're getting technical here. Do you do it all within your own website, or do you do like the generic pages and just give each one of those? Do you make a special site for each person, or do they just all within one major site and you can just give them that individual page?
It really depends on the practice. What we're going to build out for them. For some of them, we will build a custom site for them, and for others, they'll start small. They want to dip their toe into Google Ads, see how it works for them.
Yeah.
We'll give them a small amount of landing pages and test the water, see how it works for them, see what kind of return they get. So it's very much the program is picked for each practice for what's right for them at that time.
Wow, that's great. I'm going to put a link to that initial free course underneath here, so you guys can look at that. I think that's the best way, is just to get exposed. I think a lot of us have heard about the Google My Business. We've updated it. Any good, because we're finishing up here, any good ways of automating this stuff? Like there's Hootsuite, I use Delivereit. There's other ones. Which one what's your favorite one to simplify it if you don't have a marketing person to do all this stuff for you?
So to simplify what element? Because Hootsuite's
so I guess, so you want to send it, let's say, to social media, like mine sends it to Google My Business. It sends it like each YouTube video, it'll send it over there, or each in a little, almost like syndicate your stuff in different places.
So you're probably not going to like the answer to this, Don.
You don't like syndicating it?
Wow. Google doesn't like repurposing content all over the place. So just to answer that from a Google perspective, you don't actually want the same content everywhere. So a post that you put over on Instagram doesn't really belong on Google My Business.
Okay.
So by all means, repurpose between Facebook and Instagram. They're the same platform after all, and between Google My Business and YouTube. But the same thing shouldn't kind of be across all of them. Google really don't like duplicate content anymore, and that was as of the algorithm change this November just gone.
You could ding. There's so much to learn. Hey, thank you so much for your time. If people want to learn more about you, Nicola, how can they do that? If they want to, I'll put your link to your course, but if you want to tell them what the website is as well.
Sure. So you can go over to boostyourpractice.co.uk, and best place to head there is hit the free stuff tab, and you'll get some goodies.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. This was great, very interesting and informative.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
just a little quick recap. What Nicola said, what I would do for you is I would just go to your Google My Business account, make sure you have really good photos, make sure you're including any products that you have, and then ask for reviews. Within the 30-day practice blueprint, I talk about how to give reviews and how to get reviews. If you want to see my page, it's drpelto.com/reviews. Consider doing direct messaging. I had that turned on, but you have to actually answer it. So mine's not turned on. Consider kind of a free, maybe not even a free visit, but do a free phone call. Like if they want to ask a question to a staff, and then considering Google Ads. And I was also download her course. I'll put a little link to the course underneath here. Once again, hope you guys have enjoyed this interview with Podiatry Practice Mastery. I'll put a couple of links here to other videos that you might find beneficial if you're on YouTube. If you're on the podcast version, you can just look underneath. Okay, thanks guys.